The World Bank early this week released the Nigeria Development Update (NDU) report titled Building Momentum for Inclusive Growth with critical observations and suggestions both on the monetary as well as the fiscal sides. The bank applauded Nigeria's growth trajectory despite biting inflation, but said the country needs to create meaningful jobs to stave off poverty, faulted the national budget and called for an end to what it described as wasteful electricity subsidy, among others. Can Nigeria leverage her demographic dividends by investing more on her people, especially in health and education as proposed? Well, the policy recommendations from that report is our focus today. My name is Leah Katung-Babatunde. You're welcome. We begin the business of the day from the trends table.
The federal government has unveiled the Nigerian Climate Investment Platform (NCIP), a country-led initiative designed to mobilize up to $500 million in climate finance for infrastructure, resilience and adaptation projects. It described it as a significant stride towards unlocking green finance and driving sustainable economic growth. The NCIP is a result of a high-level meeting between the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, a high-level delegation from the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, the National Council on Climate Change, NCCC, and the Green Climate Fund, GCF, held in the Minister's office in Abuja. The Debt Management Office, DMO, has launched a 7-year 300 billion naira severance sukuk bond at an annual rental income of 19.75% to fund road infrastructure in the country. The DMO said the issuance is part of efforts to diversify the government's funding sources and accelerate the pace of infrastructural development, even as the debt to GDP ratio remains within an acceptable limit at 50%. Due 2032, the sukuk is a non-interest alternative instrument designed in the form of annual rental income and will close on May 20, 2025. Nigeria's macroeconomic situation is improving as a result of sustained reforms, according to the latest edition of the Nigerian Development Update (NDU) report of the World Bank. According to the report, inflation has remained high and sticky, but is expected to fall to an annual average of 21.1% in 2025, as a sustained tight stance firmly establishes monetary policy credibility and dampens inflationary expectations. This latest edition of the NDU report, titled Building Momentum for Inclusive Growth, further adds that the challenge is to consolidate macroeconomic stability and ignite inclusive growth through deeper, wider structural reforms. There is need for the economy to generate more and better jobs at scale and reduce poverty. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has again warned that it has not authorized, licensed or appointed any individual, group or organization to act as an agent or intermediary in offering contracts, financial grants or intervention funds to the public, and does not endorse or support such claims in any form. The bank, in a statement, disclosed that its attention has again been drawn to the activities of individuals and groups falsely claiming to represent or act on its behalf, and have continued to circulate fictitious offers of grants, loans, contracts, intervention funds and other financial benefits allegedly issued or endorsed by the CBN. Hakama Sidi Ali, Acting Director Corporate Communications, stated that despite previous public advisory, the misleading schemes have persisted, targeting unsuspecting members of the public with false and deceptive narratives. The United States and China have agreed to suspend the exorbitant retaliatory tariffs imposed on each other in the ongoing trade war between both countries following positive talks in Switzerland. In a joint statement on Monday, they announced that they will suspend the respective tariffs on each other for 90 days to give room for further negotiations, with China agreed to lower its import duty on American goods to 10% from 125%. With this development, the United States would reduce the tariff on Chinese imports to 30% from its current 145%, marking a significant progress in restoring trade relations between them, which had broken down in April following President Donald Trump's imposition of Liberation Day reciprocal tariffs on almost every country, including China.
Towards a $1 trillion economy, the consensus is that Nigeria will need an average of 15% growth in the near term to attain her set targets. Is that possible? Joining me virtually from Australia is Obinna Ejianya, the publisher of 9 News Nigeria and the CEO of 9 Communications Nigeria Limited. It's nice to have you on the program.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you. For starters, $1 trillion economy, is it achievable?
Well, I wouldn't be pessimistic in the proposal and the expectation of the Nigerian government under the leadership of President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. His expectation to get Nigeria to a $1 trillion US dollar economy should not be dissuaded, should not be discouraged. It's encourageable. However, it's also good to look at the dynamics and what it entails to get to that, and the effects, implications that should be weighed as well. So looking at it, Nigeria, as we can see, the economy, the GDP of Nigeria per se as a country is standing at well over 300 billion USD. However, as we can see from the country, from the situation in the country, that is where the real fact lies. How are the citizenry faring under such, GDP? Because it's always good to look at the GDP and also look at the GDP per capita. Because if you are looking at, it's just like a person is very rich, he has companies all over the world, but his children doesn't go to school. His children drop out because their school fees are not paid. The children are begging on the street because they don't have food on the table. That is where per capita comes in. Per capita is the gross production value of the citizens. And I have to look at it from where I am here in Australia, where the GDP, the national GDP stands at well over 1 trillion. And you have to look at the population as well. The per capita GDP of Australia stands at well over $6,000. If I want to bring it down to a layman's understanding, I would say that every citizen of over 60 million people can boast of earning well over $6,000, which is whereas in Nigeria, more or less, every citizen can only boast about between $700 to $800 if all things being equal, which we know that some people can't even have boast of that in 1 year. Some people cannot make 800,000 Naira in 1 year. At least over 20% of the citizens of Nigerians cannot boast that their income in 1 year is up to 1 million Naira. So that is the dynamics that we also have to look at. And having said that, it's a wake-up call that the government also put some parameters on the table as they are drawing their roadmap to increasing the economy. Let them also look at the dynamics as well. Look at the things that actually go for a healthy economy, which starts from grassroots.
Okay, I want to pause you there to throw in the next question. The World Bank earlier in the week released that development update report that gave some advices and made some observations. I want you to have your take on that. And a prominent feature in that session during that presentation was policy somersaults, with Nigeria banning and unbanning items affecting the private sector to a large extent. So can we as a nation continue on this path that policies are overturned?
Yeah, policy overturn is part of good governance. You don't expect a one stone kill all system in a government, because when you are running a government, it's like doing a business. You look at what is working and not on what is not working. My only concern when I'm speaking is the transparency in everything we do as a country. The transparency should be paramount. That is most important, because anything that's done in a shredded secrecy comes out negative.
Okay, so creating jobs, you've already talked about that, the poverty level, and the World Bank feels that Nigeria is not doing enough in creating jobs, and we already have a projected youngest population globally. What does that mean? It seems it is looking like it's becoming elusive. Is that so?
Yeah, of course. So we look at the employment rate and unemployment rate in Nigeria. Is this disparity is very high. The people that are gainfully employed are very fewer than the people that are unemployed. And if you look at some people, we estimate the employment rate of the Nigerian youth, and you see that those employment, even so to say, are not formal employment. So many Nigerian youths engage in different things to make money, including crime, indulge in criminal activities to make money. So there are many undocumented people that are employed, but those employment, are they formal? There are many content creators, many kind of things that people have to invent by themselves to make ends meet. So, so to say, we will say that our people get up in the morning and they go to do something, or one thing or the other, but are they formal employment? Are they contributing to the GDP? And those things are the things also we look at. And the economic policy makers should look at ways that will make employment to be formal. And it just comes by policy implementation, transparency, and also just look at, we have well over 200 million people. That should, boost any country that has good policy. It should boost economy. Government should do 2 or 3 things to enhance job creation. First of all, is to create enabling environment in terms of power. Without adequate power supply or stable power supply, it will be hard for people to have gainful employment. And to worsen the situation, the government, so to say, removal of fuel subsidy, irrespective of the purpose, the reason that underpin that purpose, the consequence is far-reaching and undermines the whatever purpose for which the removal was effected. So if there is power, the citizens can create jobs by themselves, because we have the right population for consumption. So whatever thing you are dishing out there that is good, you have consumer base for that. So creating a stable power supply is first priority, above every other policy the government is chasing, because GDP per capita is most paramount for the growth of the economy. Per capita is not when we say that we have GDP of 1 trillion, but average individual is living below poverty level. If someone is living below poverty level, it means that their income also is below anything. They're not making incomes. So that is first thing, stable power supply. But in the absence, whereas the government have not been able to resolve the issue of electricity, they should subsidize the pump price, the fuel price, so that it's affordable, so that alternative power supply, which is the generators, can run at a very low cost.
But the World Bank if I may pause you there, the World Bank is saying that that fuel subsidy removal was good.
You have to understand the dynamics of world politics and the way things run. Many things, when we look at it from African perspective, it doesn't work on the surface. They would think, but look at our system. Everything is done under secrecy. Nothing is transparent. Removal of first subsidy to use the money to do other things is good as it sounds, but in practical it doesn't go that way, because let me just tell you that every economy of developed country run on subsidy. The problem with subsidy in Nigeria is that there's no transparency. So the money, which is going on right now as well, even though they say they removed the subsidy, they are paying subsidy to private pockets as well. So for example, you see they are subsidizing some aspect of the economy, but it's not done in transparency. So because of that, it gives room for breeding corruption. So every developed country run on subsidy. Like if I'm sick today, I'll go to hospital and I'm not paying a dime. I'm not paying 1 Naira. I'm not paying $1. It's because health system is subsidized. In fact, it's paid for. And most core aspect of the economy is subsidized. Why do governments subsidize things? Is because they want the economy to run freely. Because common sense is that when you, Leah, have a lot of money in your pocket, you will go out there and start spending the money. And what happens is that when you are buying those things, you're also making the business of those people you are buying things from to be lucrative. And it goes from one chain to another. It's a chain. So the economic chain will just be rotating and running. So when you don't have money, there's stagnation, because you can't buy things you need. And those people selling those things are also suffering. And those people selling those things, they can't buy also the things they need. So it's a chain. So that's why when there is global economic or inflation crisis, you see developed countries start sharing money to their citizens. Why are they doing that? They give you money and they force, like here in Australia, they will force you, they will say, you must spend that money. Why? Because they want every business to start running. So, but when governments say we want to make a 1 trillion economy, which is devoid of the citizen participation in the growth, it's not natural. It's just artificial, wealth creation. The government should create enabling environment by making the power accessible. If they can't create stable electricity, let them subsidize fuel so that people can run their businesses without high costs. Secondly is empowerment through training. Tertiary institutions should start training people for them to start their own things. So people that are plumbers or floor tilers, they should have training, and certification. If those things do, so there will be formal employment instead of people just informally doing things that is not official, and then the economy is suffering.
The World Bank also had this about the Nigerian budget. They simply tagged these our current budget as unrealistic. Do you align with that position?
Yeah, it's unrealistic in my own sense that when we budget that we want to build road and we budget the road to take us 300 million naira. Whereas in reality, this road, if the project is brought into the public domain and there's public bidding, this 300 million can build 10 roads, because that particular one that they budgeted 300 million, maybe 50 million can gainfully, complete the project. So that is why it's unrealistic. There's padding everywhere. That is, I'm sorry to say, not that I'm against the government, but because we have the desire to see Nigeria that works so that we all can come back to Nigeria and enjoy our cultural, heritage and everything. So we want that country to run.
So how can we accelerate the pace of this growth if there's that consensus that we need at least an average of 15% growth per annum? Meanwhile, we are averaging 3% right now.
First of all, is create enabling environment. When you create enabling environment, which is first of foremost, let there be stable power supply. Let the government put a whole lot of money, eliminate corruption in the supply chain, and reduce fuel costs for people, because that is what is running the economy of Nigeria. That fuel runs the economy. And that fuel runs the global economy. You don't know how important fuel price is to the whole global economy. It's very important. Whenever there's crisis in the crude oil price, the global economy will shake instantly. So I don't know how we think as a country that you can just increase by how many percent, over 30% increase the fuel pump price. And that affects food supply, affects every part of the economy, and we are grappling over that. So for the government to maintain sustainable growth, please make sure that power supply is stable, subsidize the fuel, control corruption, lapses.
Okay, I must sincerely thank you, Mr. Obinna, for making our time for this conversation.
You're welcome.
And of course, we move on to our education segment, Simplify This. From there, we take you to the markets. And that wraps up the edition this week. Don't forget that you can always log on to our sister website. It is www.marketnigeriatv.com. We have all the market details and more there for you. Until we come your way again, same time next week. Don't forget to send your comments, questions, and suggestions because we need them to help us serve you better. Keep doing good out there, and God bless Nigeria.